Hey y'all, welcome back to another week of What's for Dinner. On Monday, I cooked breakfast for dinner. That's always a favorite around here. I always like to choose my simplest meal on the meal plan for Mondays just because of the crazy busy weekends before, and I always just like to kind of ease back into the whole cooking thing. But we had some fried bologna, fried eggs, some shredded hash browns with ketchup. Those were so delicious. And then I had some mandarin oranges and strawberries, and I had actually planned on making my air fryer bagels, but I worked with this dough, and it just was not coming together, and I couldn't figure out why. But I picked up the wrong yogurt. I got the plain non-fat yogurt, and you're supposed to use Greek yogurt, so that was a bummer. But luckily I had my homemade biscuits in the freezer, and I topped those with grape jelly. On Tuesday, I made some beef stew that I topped with parsley, and this was the best recipe that I have ever tried for beef stew. I have tried quite a few, and this was by far my favorite, so I will definitely have this recipe linked in my description box. And I just served that with some of these Pepperidge Farm artesian French rolls, and I just kind of dipped that into the stew, and it was so delicious. But now I'm going to show you how I put this together. So first off, I just started by adding some vegetable oil to my Dutch oven, and I just let that heat up. And while that was heating up, I started on my stew meat. So I just added in this whole package to a large Ziploc bag, and then I added in some seasoning. So we have some salt, pepper, onion powder, and Italian seasoning. And then I also added in some flour, and I just shook my bag so that everything could get coated. And then I just added that into my hot oil, and I did have to do this in 2 batches, but all I'm doing is searing the meat on all sides for a few minutes, and once the meat was seared, I removed it to a separate plate. And then I added in a little bit more oil, and I just threw in some minced garlic, and I just sauteed that for a couple of minutes. And I did get a little bit nervous on how the bottom was kind of burning, but it all worked out in the end. So then I just added in some red wine vinegar just to try and help deglaze the pan a little bit. And then I added in some tomato paste, just gave that a good stir. And then I added back in that seared beef, and I just tossed that in the tomato paste, garlic goodness, just to get everything coated. And then I start to add in my beef broth. And then I cut up some celery, potatoes, and carrots. And I just added that all into the pot. Just gave that another stir. And then I added in some Worcestershire sauce and a bay leaf, along with some Italian seasoning and some salt and pepper. Gave that another stir. And I just let that come up to a boil. And then I turned my heat down to low, popped my lid on, and I let that cook for 2 hours. And here is when it was done. The meat and veggies were so tender, and the sauce was thick and flavorful. So good. I'm making manicotti for the first time today. So for my ingredients, I have some Parmesan, mozzarella, cream cheese, ricotta, some frozen chopped spinach. I'm going to be squeezing as much liquid out of that I can before I add it into the mixture. And then 2 eggs, some manicotti noodles, and I have 2 jars of pasta sauce. I'm not really sure that I'll need all of that, but I have an extra one just in case. But now I'm going to show you how I put this together. This recipe is definitely a keeper. We loved it, and I served it with broccoli. I cooked it 2 ways. So in the back we have some steamed, and in the front we have roasted. I just had a lot of broccoli in my fridge that I needed to use up, so I just cooked all of it. And I had planned on making some homemade garlic bread, but as you can see, my bread didn't rise in time, but that's okay. That was our dinner for Wednesday. On Thursday, I made one of our favorites, and that is Crockpot cracked chicken. So all I do is put 2 chicken breasts in my Crockpot, and I top that with a block of cream cheese and a packet of ranch seasoning. And I just cooked that on low for 4 hours. This was already cooked, but I just shredded that up, and then I topped it with some sharp shredded cheese. That's hard to say. And then I also topped it with some cooked and crumbled bacon, and I just let that melt. And then I serve it on buns, and then I also served it with some of these broccoli and cheese veggie tots. That was my first time trying them, and oh my gosh, they were so good. I cooked those in the air fryer. On Friday, I tried a new recipe for chicken taco chili, so I just added in 2 cans of Rotel along with an 8-ounce can of tomato sauce, and then some kidney beans that I did drain and rinse, and also some black beans that I drained and rinsed, and then a whole bag of frozen corn. And then I did make my own taco seasoning, and I will have this recipe linked in the description box. I just gave everything a good stir, and then I threw in 2 large chicken breasts, and I just kind of covered that with everything and moved it down to the bottom. And I slow cooked this on low for 4 hours, and once the 4 hours was up, I just shredded the chicken and it was done. This was so yummy. I topped mine with some sour cream, even though you can't see it, but it's underneath the shredded cheese. And I did use some extra sharp shredded cheese, and then I topped it with some crushed tortilla chips. On Saturday, we had dinner at a baby shower, and we had some chili and some sandwiches. And then on Sunday, we went out to eat at Texas Roadhouse, my favorite restaurant ever. But that wraps up this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.